In The Mandalorian Season 3, Episode 2, we got to see something that we thought was long extinct. The Mythosaur lives. So I think it's prudent that in today's video I go over what we know about mythosaurs in a concise way. So we're going to go through everything from the history of them, how they got extinct, who extinct them, and a little more. A mythosaur is a large dragon-like creature that lived on the planet Mandalore. They were creatures of gigantic proportions. They were estimated to be on par with the scale of a small city or a massive skyscraper, depending on the mythosaur we're talking about. They had 4 big legs that supported their bodies, and they were generally characterized by their enormous size. Their large tusks curved inwards towards their jaws, and they were often depicted as lizard-like, dragon-like creatures. They were very aggressive in behavior, and they went about unchallenged by other creatures. They were literally an apex predator. Now, believed to be extinct until, of course, The Mandalorian Season 3, where Bo-Katan came eye to eye with one, they played a significant role in the culture and history of the Mandalorian people, dominating the planet for centuries until they were hunted to extinction by the Mandalorian Tong, led by the warrior known as Mandalore the First. Now, Mandalore the First led the Mandalorian people to the planet from Rune after being outcast from Coruscant. And then from there, they went to Mandalore and conquered it. This is how Mandalore got its name in the first place. He was most famous for killing a giant mythosaur, which led to the skull of the mythosaur being used as the symbol of the Mandalorians for several years. In fact, the mythosaur is a significant symbol for the Mandalorian culture as it represents strength, power, and survival. Now, the Mandalorians were said to have once tamed and ridden mythosaurs until they were driven to extinction. Kuiil says this in The Mandalorian Season 1, as well as does the Armorer. Now, one might ask, how is it possible to kill such a large and powerful beast? Well, Mandalore the First and his Tong followers were very skilled warriors who were proficient with swords and spears. Additionally, it is said that Mandalore the First was the one who carved his helmet from the sternum of a mythosaur, which was extremely impenetrable. It remained to be a symbol of power for all of the descending line of Mandalorians. Mandalore the First set the standard for honor, courage, and skill for all of the Mandalores to come after him, including their leaders, especially their leaders. Throughout Star Wars history, Mandalore has long been ravaged by conflicts that have devastated the planet, whether civil wars or wars elsewhere, with other entities and factions. During the time of the Mandalorian, the planet has been abandoned after being destroyed by the Empire in the Great Purge, and this is where we see Djarin come there, and we see it's all crystallized. Now, the mythosaur was an essential part of Mandalorian culture, an identity. It wasn't just a symbol, but also a creature that played a significant role in their history. This is like the Mandalorian mascot, essentially. The creature's hunt became a rite of passage for young warriors, where the mythosaur was so important to the Mandalorians that its skull became the symbol to their culture. This is why we see it on many Mandalorian armors, pauldrons, and capes. Now, in new times, the Mandalorians believed that their ancestors rode the mythosaur into battle, and it was their strength and ferocity that helped them become the powerful warrior race that they were known to be. So in a sense, they kind of see the mythosaurs as a reason for how they survived for so long, and sort of harness the beast's energy and violence into their own. Now, the mythosaur's extinction, or so thought extinction, marked the end of an era, and it changed the Mandalorian people forever. The hunt for the mythosaur became a symbol of the Mandalorians' power and strength, but it also represented their destructive nature. It demonstrated their ability to dominate and conquer, and it showed the Mandalorians' willingness to do whatever it takes to survive. So while they cherished the mythosaur and saw it as this amazing creature that gave them strength and hope, they were also hunting it to extinction. Kind of tells you a lot about Mandalorians and their prideful nature. Now, of course, the Mandalorians' extinction of the mythosaur led to the belief that the planet was cursed and poisoned for many years leading up to the events of The Mandalorian show on Disney+. However, as revealed in the most recent episode of The Mando, a living mythosaur was discovered on the planet. Now, this new discovery, of course, is opening up a ton of different theories on what it means for the future of the Mandalorian people and their culture. Will Bo-Katan try to tame the mythosaur? Will she ride it into battle and claim all of Mandalorians on her side once again, banding every single faction that used to have civil fights and civil wars to unite under her power. That would be a pretty powerful thing, I think. In conclusion, the Mythosaur played a very vital role in the culture and history of the Mandalorian people. It wasn't just a symbol or a creature, but rather a soul and a being that represented the Mandalorian strength and ferocity. Now, despite the so-thought extinction up until, just about a week ago, its skull remained an essential symbol of Mandalorian culture, and its recent discovery has led to speculation about what it means for the future of Mandalorian people and their culture, which makes me think that either Bo or Din or heck, maybe Boba is going to come in there and be able to tame the beast and ride it. Now, my theory here is that, and I'm going to leave this for another video, but essentially is that Grogu is going to be able to tame the beast with his mind control eventually, and he will be the one that perhaps either rides it and controls all Mandalorians, being the second in all of Star Wars history to be a Jedi and Mandalorian at the same time, like Tar Vizsla, or he's going to have Din Djarin ride it on his command. Either way, the Mythosaur is an extremely important beast and creature to the Mandalorian people, and I'm really happy that it's in the show now because it's pretty cool. There's a lot of lore behind this guy, and seeing someone ride him into battle would be pretty sweet. Let me know what you guys think about seeing the Mythosaur in The Mandalorian. Do you think Bo-Katan will ride it, or will the Mandalorian, or will somebody else? Thanks so much for your time and watching today's lore video. Hope you enjoyed it. Leave a like if you'd be so kind, and I'll see you soon in the next video. Until then, remember, my fellow Jedi and Sith friends, the Force will be with you. Always.
Anakin looked back at Obi-Wan with tears streaming down his cheeks. He wanted nothing more than to go back. He could see what the Emperor had turned him into, the evil he had brought out of Anakin, and all because he needed his powers for his own master plan. Upon their walk back to the ship, Anakin saw Padme laying unconscious where he had left her. Running to her, he put his hand on her forehead, bringing her back to consciousness. As she opened her eyes to see her husband, they smiled at one another with tears flowing down their cheeks. Everything seemed right again. With work and effort, things could maybe return. Either way, it didn't matter to him. All that mattered was Padme was alive, and he could feel that he made the right choice. Looking at Obi-Wan, they both smiled at one another as Anakin reached out to touch his shoulder when he saw him fly 50 feet behind him into a boulder as he withered on the floor in agony, blue and purple spider-like webs of electricity sparking over his limbs.
Stupid boy, I gave you one more chance, and this is how you repay me.
Anakin looked up as he saw Palpatine's electrostatic fingers buzzing, ready to strike again as 4 clone troopers guarded his sides. He could see his hands directed at Padme, his eyes filling with rage. Turning orange and yellow, he stood in front of her, waving his hand. The clone troopers all grabbed their throats as he crushed their windpipes. He knew the powers of the Force now proved to be worthy of his expectations. Staring at the Emperor's soulless eyes as if he looked into a black hole, emptiness surrounded them. As erupting lava could be heard from afar, the wind blew through Anakin's sweat-drenched hair, and the Emperor's cloak swaying parallel in the wind. The universe stood still, waiting on the next move.